Live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you very much for joining us. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, as we do every weekday starting at 1 p.m. right after our noon news. We are here to cover a wide range of topics throughout the afternoon, so thanks for being here. I always encourage people to watch via the Fox 12 Oregon app on your Roku device, Fire TV, Apple TV, whatever your television device is. That's a great way to watch us live, and then also after the fact for the different segments that we covered. As I mentioned, I am here in the newsroom. We're going to be joined here shortly by Ezra Kaplan, our Fox 12 investigative reporter, to talk about that subject that you're seeing right there on screen. So he is on his way actually back from the facility right now, so we're anticipating him here in a few minutes. But before he gets here, I want to catch you up on what this subject is. So this has to do with the city of Portland finding that the ICE facility on South Macadam, there in South Portland, has been in violation of their zoning agreements that they signed to have that building there. So I'm going to run a package here right now that's just going to explain a little bit more of this and maybe catch you up to speed in case you're unaware of what's going on. And then we'll have some reactions. We'll have Ezra here shortly to get to a more in-depth discussion and hopefully get you some more information about this. But let's go ahead and watch this first.
At times, Portland police have declared a riot, and on multiple occasions, federal officers have used tear gas and/or pepper balls to disperse protesters. Now, a petition with over 15,000 signatures is calling on the city to revoke the permit that allows ICE to operate this facility. And it's getting the attention of city leaders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question was the city's authority to revoke or rescind the conditional use permit that was granted.
Robert Taylor is the city's attorney and says that while the permit was issued in 2011 by a previous city government, there's no simple undo button today.
Neither Oregon law nor Portland zoning code allows the city to unilaterally withdraw, rescind, or cancel that prior decision.
But this particular permit came with some special rules. One of the big sticking points back in 2011 focused on whether or not ICE could have 4 holding cells and operate this location as a detention facility. In the end, the city signed off on the plan, but said that no detainee could be held for longer than 12 hours in this facility. But an analysis of ICE's own detention data by Fox 12 found 25 instances when a person was held at this facility for longer than 12 hours. And of those instances, there were 20 times when a person was held for over 24 hours. And while a few of the cases happened during the Biden administration, 24 of the 28 cases of people staying over 12 hours happened since President Trump took office a second time. We asked ICE about what we found, and while they didn't dispute the data, they also wouldn't comment on the record. ICE maintains that this facility is not a detention center and that ICE has no detention centers in Oregon. Still, they are permitted to have 4 holding cells here, and the data shows that they are getting use.
So that permit was approved by a prior city council. That was something that we inherited, and we have legal requirements for that permit. So if they have fulfilled their obligations under that permit, we can't just revoke it because it morally feels good.
City Councilor Angelita Murillo tells me that she is working with the city attorney to examine whether or not they have cause to reevaluate the permit.
They do need to be standing by the agreements of the permit, and if they haven't done that, then that needs to be a discussion to have with council as a whole.
And while they haven't announced any concrete next steps, Councilor Murillo says that the city leadership is unified.
Every councilor right now is very dedicated to protecting the immigrant community. There's not a single one of my colleagues that I think wouldn't have my back. So I think we are ready to hold the line for immigrants in Portland.
Now, while this data did come directly from ICE, they didn't turn it over willingly. A group of academics and attorneys at UCLA sued the administration under the Freedom of Information Act, and a judge ordered the department to release the data. Now, there's a lot to sort through, and in the coming weeks, you can expect more of our reporting on this very important issue. Reporting in studio, Ezra Kaplan, Fox 12 Oregon.
And now in studio with us, once again, Ezra Kaplan.
Hey there.
Sit there. Hello. So this is what we wanted to bring you here. So we caught people up just a little bit there on some of that reporting. That was from July, right?
That was back at the very beginning of July. That's
very
right.
Beginning, and all of that data that you analyzed to go through this to find out what's going on there.
So all that data that we used for that story, that's actually the same data that the City of Portland now is saying that they used for their own investigation. I had a little bit of a chat yesterday with the city. apparently the nuts and bolts of how this all happened is that one of a community member used our reporting to submit a complaint to the city. That complaint then triggered this investigation that is now what we're seeing with them issuing the notification of violating the conditional permit that ICE facility is operating under.
Well, all from going through all of that stuff. And I can only imagine that took quite a while to go through all of that data, too.
It is a huge file, and it should be clear that this is nothing secret or anything like this. This is ICE's, this is the Department of Homeland Security's own data that was obtained by the Freedom of Information Act, or a Freedom of Information Act request done by a group of lawyers and academics. They then made that data public. So there's a website online that anybody can get it. They are huge data files, so we did do a lot of data analysis, but yeah, this is kind of what we found, and now it's actually maybe it's having some impacts.
Yeah, having some impact on that for sure. Well, do you want to run what you reported yesterday?
Yeah, let's take a look at from yesterday, and then we'll chat a little bit about any new developments.
Yeah, all right, perfect.
For months, there's been nearly a 24-hour...
All right, did I mention that we're live here? So let me go ahead and press the right button for you. There we go.
ICE has told us repeatedly that the facility on Macadam Avenue in South Portland is not a detention center, but the facility operates under a conditional use permit issued in 2011 that designates the property as a detention center and allows for 4 holding cells. That same permit states that no detainee can be held for longer than 12 hours or overnight in the facility. Our investigation discovered at least 25 instances where people were held for longer than 12 hours. In one case, data shows that a person was held for 47 days. That's what the city found as well, and now they are sending a land use violation notice to the ICE facility. Take a listen to what Mayor Wilson had to say.
We must remember, this review was triggered by the federal government's breaking promises to our community regarding the detention of human beings. Whatever comes of this process, I hope you will join me in celebrating and supporting Portland's immigrant community and standing in solidarity with all those who've been impacted by the actions of the federal government in recent days.
The city says they will send the violation notice to ICE on Thursday. We reached out to ICE for comment but did not immediately hear back. Now, it's important to note that the city issuing this violation notice does not mean that the ICE facility will be shut down. There are a myriad of bureaucratic steps that can now initiate that process following the notice, but they have timelines of 30 to 60 days or longer. In the meantime, ICE can continue operating the facility under the existing land use approval. Reporting in studio, Ezra Kaplan, Fox 12 Oregon.
All right, so again, there we go. Taking a look at that reporting from yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, just finding out more about this. And so you have just been today back out there.
Yeah, so we just went back out to the facility. Little update, they have painted over a lot of the graffiti. So if anybody's driving by the ICE facility on South Macadam Avenue, it's got a lot of gray paint on there now. So a lot of that graffiti is now covered up. One of the other updates that we do have is yesterday we heard from the Department of Homeland Security Thursday night. We got a response from them, and I'll just read a little bit of what they said. So this is from Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, who is part of the press communications team at the Department of Homeland Security. She said that another day, another sanctuary politician attempting to prevent the brave men and women of ICE from removing the worst of the worst from the U.S. She says that furthermore, the Southwest Portland ICE facility is a processing center, not a detention center. And she says that ICE has taken actions to ensure that detainees are not held for more than 12 hours, including by increasing staffing and other resources provided by the One Big Beautiful Bill. And then, so a couple things just to tease out of that.
Yeah.
Our data does show that most of these violations happened in January, just in the few days after President Trump was inaugurated on January 20th. So the bulk of the violations happened back in January. We saw one other violation. Somebody was held for longer than 12 hours in April. We have data right now through late July, and we haven't seen any other violations in that time. Okay. So it may be that ICE is no longer holding people for this length of time. We'll have yet to see in terms of what happens now, ICE has 30 days to resolve these issues. After that 30 days, the city can place a lien on the property and start fining ICE or whoever owns the property a little under $1,000 every month. That then doubles after, I think, 3 months. So they can start actually fining the facility for not upholding or not following the permitting, the land use zoning rules that they are supposed to.
Now, when you're talking about 30 days to resolve it, what can they do to resolve something that happened back in January, and if they're not continuing to do that?
Well, so what this notice of violation says is that we found that you violated the terms of your conditional use permit. What they will need to do is to show to the city that they are now following that permit, that they are now not holding people for longer than 12 hours. So I don't know what that will look like. I would imagine it will be some data sharing. Another interesting thing that came out of this violation notice is it wasn't just on the detention times. They also got a violation for having plywood or boarded up windows and doors, which is also against the zoning rules in that area. So again, they've got 30 days to fix that. Otherwise, they might start getting a fine.
Wow. So that's a lot to find out here within 30 days. Now, one other question for you, just going through all of that data and stuff, you said this is public information.
Yes.
Is that information up to now like current, or how do we find out what's exactly happening?
Yeah, so the team of lawyers and academics who are kind of doing the real footwork on this data and making sure that the transparency is actually happening, they're releasing more data as they get it. Okay. I think they've done about 4 releases now. The most recent one, the data goes through late July. Okay. So, you know, in terms of getting government data, pretty current actually, but we do still have that gap of, I guess it's about a month and a half or so that we're still waiting to get data on.
And what has the reaction been like so far, you know, from, I guess, the community around there? And people who are...
You know, we've seen reactions both at the facility and in City Hall. There was a City Hall, our City Councilor meeting on Thursday. There are community members that have expressed gratitude and said, finally, thank you for doing this. This is something they've been calling for. There is a petition that was signed by several thousand folks asking for this permit to be revoked. There are other folks out there who think this is not enough. They don't want to see the city going kind of through this bureaucratic process of 30 days, and then there's things that happen at 60 days and 90 days. They say, this is an emergency. You guys have to take action now. City councilors have pushed back and said, look, there are a set of rules that we have to follow.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily a fan of it. But that's how land use law works, and it's pretty technical and usually pretty boring, but it's really front and center right now.
Yeah, right there. I mean, is there even an option for that, for an emergency action? Or?
Well, you know, one of the things that the city councilors who I've talked to have told me is that they are trying to be really cognizant of how they go about this to prevent any legal ramifications down the line.
Yeah.
They're in constant contact with their own attorneys, and they know that as they take action, this is a litigious administration. This is something that they could end up going to court over, and so they're trying to make sure they're checking all the boxes, doing it the right way. So if it does end up in court, they don't regret something that they did now, kind of in the heat of the moment.
Right, that everything's all lined up.
That's right.
In that order.
That's absolutely right.
Obviously, you know, this is a local thing here to the Northwest, but this is getting a lot of national attention.
It absolutely is.
For seeing this. Has this happened anywhere else in the country that you know of?
Well, in terms of this specific situation, not that I know of, because this is really hedged on the fact that back in 2011, when ICE wanted to build this facility, they went to the city council and said, we want to build this facility. City council was not thrilled. They said, we're not really sure about it. One of the things that came out of the negotiation was they eventually allowed for it, but put specifically in this conditional use permit that they could not hold anybody for 12 hours or longer. So that is really unique to this facility. So we haven't seen that replicated elsewhere.
Gotcha.
But this data set that we're looking at is nationwide. And I know there are journalists working on stories in maybe every market around the country looking at, you know, trying to get transparency on what's happening behind very closed doors.
Wow. Well, that's a lot of work to get that information, and, you know, thanks to you and the team here, too, for getting that out and taking the time to go through all of that, because Ezra's not kidding. That's a
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
My computer slows down every time I open up the Excel document.
I can only imagine. Well, yeah, thanks for doing that. And we've, of course, got this all recapped for you at kptv.com. You can go there and read through all of these different situations, all the information as far as what's happening. And that's one thing we're able to do here is keep you up to date on all of that. Anything particular as far as any public hearings or information to be released?
Nothing major right now. We've heard now from the government their response. We've heard from the city council. Most likely this slows down for at least the next 30 days, and it's a little bit more behind the scenes. We're going to stay on top of it, though. If something does come up, we'll bring it right to y'all.
All right, so there we go. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us, too. This is Fox 12 Now. So, as I mentioned before, we live stream here in the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom in between our other newscasts. So, right after noon at 1 o'clock, we're here. We can do this, have Ezra on here for these deeper dives, a little bit longer form discussion, find out things. And if you have a question or if you have something you want to find out more about, maybe a news segment that you saw on some of our other shows, feel free to send me an email, fox12now@kptv.com. We'll see if we can do something like that. And we do have plenty of other coverage coming up here this afternoon, so I encourage you to follow along with all of that. That's coming up here later. We're going to be talking to the Pearson Airfield in Vancouver, and at Fort Vancouver. It's their 100th anniversary, so some interesting stories coming out of that. We've got the Fox 12 Weather Podcast video edition, so plenty of other things as well. But if there's breaking news, this is also where to go. So if that happens over this afternoon, I'll be right here with that for you, too. But Ezra, thank you.
Absolutely.
For having time to join us, and thanks for everybody being here. If you are watching live, we'll be back in about 14 minutes, so I'll talk to you then. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.